It is 7:34. It is a weekend of $2 a liter gas for a lot of British Columbians experiencing this for the first time. First time I experienced $2 a liter gas was about 20 years ago when I first went to Europe and rented a car and went, oh my gosh, suddenly reality has caught up to us here in North America. And as a result, I would think this weekend, especially here in British Columbia, more drivers than ever before are at least considering the possibility of an electric or zero emission vehicles. Our next guest is part of a team that has been pressuring the BC government for years to eliminate provincial sales tax on zero emission vehicles. And darn it, if the BC government didn't oblige them in their budget just a few days ago. Adrian Scovell is back with us. Mr. Scovell is president and CEO of the Automotive Retailers Association of British Columbia. Adrian, good morning. Welcome back.
Hello, good morning. How are you, Sterling?
I'm very well, thank you, Adrian. This must have been welcome news. Not certainly one of the biggest items in the budget with deficits and other priorities, but it did sort of jump off the page at us. And again, this is something you've been lobbying for quite a while. Give us the backstory in terms of the involvement of the automotive retailers.
Well, as you mentioned, we've been talking to government actually about the full life cycle of electric vehicles for quite some time. Obviously, it's the way of the future, and government is seriously behind it. I would say that we've been talking to them versus pressuring them. Right. To put a finer point on it, they're actually looking for industry feedback and how to get the product adoption increased. And they began with rebates on new vehicles.
Sure.
But then, of course, once you've got them into the pipeline, now what happens? So that's when it became obvious that government needed to turn its attention to used electric vehicles, pre-owned electric vehicles. And,
indeed.
And they've been asking us, actually. It was, we spoke with Minister Ralston originally, and his ministry spoke back to us, and they've been trying to figure out it's not as easy as it appears on the surface to actually get the right program in place that doesn't have the wrong kind of sort of loopholes built into it.
Indeed. Well, the official line is, and I'm reading now from your website, effective February 23rd, the purchase or lease of used zero-emission vehicles is exempt from provincial sales tax, and the exemption is in effect until 2027. This is a 5-year exemption window, Adrian.
Yes, it is, and we're really pleased by that. I think government's gone a little beyond our expectation even. We thought we might be able to get it for a couple of years and run as an experiment and give it then sort of reassess. But they've actually sort of gone all in. But they've done their research. They know what they're doing. I would have to tell you, they've been very serious about making sure that this program is going to work and that it was applicable. They wanted something very easy to do rather than, having to go through a lot of paperwork or maybe have to get your money refunded versus a discount at point of sale, if you will.
Sure.
So that's where this idea for making it actually a PST rebate came into effect.
Let's dive into the nuts and bolts of the budget item here. What zero emission vehicles qualify as used, for example, under this exemption?
Well, there are some. I was going to use the word restriction, but that's actually true. It's very wide open. First of all, battery electric vehicles, and then they've also included hydrogen fuel cells. So to say it is zero emission vehicles versus just electric vehicles,
right?
And
sure.
It also it includes the plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. So there are hybrid vehicles, for instance, that don't plug in to recharge. They only generate their own source of recharging. So those are not a part of the program. But all electric vehicles, hydrogen fuel cells, and plug-in hybrid are eligible. Now, there's a further restriction on it needs to have, if it's a private sale, over 6,000 kilometers on the odometer.
To qualify as used.
Yes, if it's
right.
out of the used market. If you're getting it from a used dealer, that is there's a different restriction on that, but it's more open. So, it's a very good and comprehensive program.
Okay, so now when will the exemption be provided? Once you look at the car, you do the test drive, and you go, okay, we agree on this price, and there's no tax. So when does the no tax aspect kick in? At the point of sale, or at the point of registering or getting your license plate? Where does that happen?
Well, buying through a licensed motor dealer, it'll be instantaneous. It'll be at the point of sale. So obviously, if you buy privately, you don't pay sales tax to the person you're buying it from. That would be when you go to register your vehicle.
Sure.
But the best thing I would really say with a zero emission vehicle, if I was looking, I would be dealing with a licensed motor dealer, a licensed used car dealer. By the way, all used car dealers are licensed in British Columbia under the VSA.
Okay.
So that would be my strong advice. You really do want to go through someone who knows what they're doing and has the right information for you. And if you go onto we've got two websites I think you're familiar with, the ara.bc.ca.
Right.
There's also a site, evfriendly.ca. And that one is very specific to lots of information about EVs and how to make choices and which ones to look at.
One of the other things that, of course, this increased level of inclusion of zero-emission vehicles in the mix, Adrian, is going to be, and you and I have talked about this before, and we're moving off the budget to something else a little further away, but not very far, and that's the notion of having skilled technicians available to service all of these new vehicles, whether they're bought new or tax exempt as a used vehicle or whatever. They are a different type of vehicle requiring a different type of training for those who work on them. And again, the Automotive Retailers Association has been leaning on the BC government for supervised training programs for all of those skills. And recently, again, the government has come through with announcement of skills Red Seal programs for people like ZEV mechanics, correct?
Correct. They are. And the colleges and educational institutions are working now, introducing programs to teach these properly. And now recently, they're looking at skilled trade certification. We're looking at it now with government, and it's going to take a little while to get all of the curriculum in place and make sure that everything is there. So the Industry Training Authority, the ITA, will be the governing body for that. And the government recently announced, and they put into place a body within that group of oversight. So they will have people who are able to track who is and isn't qualified to service vehicles, and also to be able to make sure that they are. Basically, you won't be able to operate unless you're properly trained.
Right.
So we're just now seeing those first shops coming online. Precision Auto out here in Langley is one of the first and they're actually building a new facility, which will have the skilled labor in there to deal with electric vehicles. There'll be many more. This is just the thin end of the wedge we're seeing coming now.
But and you got to start somewhere, and you got to do it right from the get-go. And it's taken a while, but it's starting to happen, isn't it?
It is, and you really nailed it, Stirling. That is exactly it. It's personally, I'd love to wave a magic wand in it. Everything's in place and the infrastructure's in there, and tomorrow morning you wake up and there it is. But it needs to be done right. We need to make sure that those things are thought through carefully, and it's more complex than it appears on the surface. But I would say that this government seems very serious about low carbon emission and reducing our carbon footprint through vehicles, and they're putting everything in place to make sure it's going to happen, all the way from, as you suggest, selling the vehicles to towing the vehicles to collision repair and mechanical repair, all the way to the recycling. That's the big topic now that we're talking to government about is controlling the recycling of batteries and EV vehicles. There's some big questions to be answered there.
No question about it. Keep up the good work, Adrian. Now, you mentioned a couple of websites, and if people want to learn more, for example, about the PST exemption on used zero-emission vehicles, I'm on your website, ara.bc.ca, but you mentioned another one as well. What was that?
It's very simple to remember, EV-friendly.
Okay.
There's an EV-friendly world out there, and it's actually I know some people were sort of a little tentative at first, and where do I charge it, and can I, and can you get them fixed? And the answer is yes, you can, and there's plenty of welcome out there for an EV-friendly world.
EVfriendly.ca. Adrian Scovell, President and CEO of the Automotive Retailers Association of BC, with a bit of a good news story on a $2 a liter weekend. Thanks very much for doing this with us, Adrian.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.
It's our pleasure. Adrian Scovell from the Automotive Retailers Association. 744.